My wife's boss, a self-proclaimed alpha male, had the nerve to proposition her, and the sheer disrespect towards our marriage set me ablaze with anger. I couldn't tolerate it. I just arrived home, only to find Maya missing. Usually, she'd be there before me with dinner almost ready. She often worked late, but this time felt different. Just as I was about to call her, my phone buzzed. "Hey love, are you still at the office?" I asked. "Yeah, but I'm on my way home now. I've got a surprise for you," she replied. "Should I get dinner started or maybe order something?" I wondered aloud. "No need. There won't be time for that tonight," she said, leaving me puzzled. About 20 minutes later, Maya walked in, looking completely disheveled. Her clothes were wrinkled, stockings gone, makeup smeared, and her hair a mess. "Rough day," I commented, immediately noticing her state. She pulled me into a tight embrace, whispering, "You know I love you more than anything, and you'd do anything for me, right?" I nodded, thinking I'd do whatever it took to make her happy. Then she started telling me about conversations she'd been having with her boss, Grant, about our relationship dynamics. Apparently, these talks sparked some fantasies for her. Though I let her make many decisions like where to vacation or what restaurants to eat at, we handled the big stuff together: home buying, cars, finances. My priority had always been her happiness, but that didn't mean I was submissive. "You're always so kind, letting me have my way with the little things, and I love you for it," she said. But lately, Grant has been introducing me to these stories about relationships where the men take a more submissive role. He told me it could bring something new into our relationship. And honestly, Jake, it's awakened something in me. "Maya," I replied, a bit puzzled, "I let you make decisions on things that bring you joy, but when it comes to bigger decisions like the house or investments, I lead. It's not about being submissive. It's about showing love in the ways that matter. My dad used to say that marriage is about not sweating the small stuff," I added, thinking back to his words about living joyfully and positively. "Maybe," she responded, "but Grant sees things differently. He's strong, confident, and he views himself as an alpha male, a man who dominates. He thinks that people like you, as caring and kind as you are more inclined to submit." I frowned. Her boss's perspective sounded like shallow, pop-psych nonsense. "Is that what you're trying to say? What exactly are you getting at?" I asked, sensing something shifting in her tone. "Grant has been, let's say, more forward with me," she admitted, hesitating. "He's confident in his size and his power, and he's been showing off in the office for weeks now. I know it's wrong, but I got swept up in it. It's been exciting." The room seemed to close in as her confession hung between us. "For the last few weeks, I've been fantasizing about him," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "He even suggested that maybe you'd like the idea of me being with him. He thinks you might enjoy watching. And if not, he says we'd have the best sex of our lives after I come back to you." I stared at her, expecting her to break into laughter or admit it was a joke. But no, she was serious. "Maya, are you actually suggesting this? How could you think I'd be okay with any of this?" I asked, utterly incredulous. "Jake, I know you love me and want me to be happy," she persisted. "I really think this could bring us to a whole new level." "Maya, are you telling me you've done something with him?" I demanded, struggling to process what she was implying. "No, Jake, I haven't slept with him. But," she hesitated, "we've been close. I've touched him. I've talked to him in ways I shouldn't have." I felt sick. "Has he?" I couldn't finish the question. She looked away, avoiding my eyes. "No, not yet. But he's outside, waiting. He's in the driveway. We're going to talk and then he'll come inside. We're going to the bedroom and you can watch if you want. Afterward, I'll come back to you, and you'll have me however you want." Disgust rose in me. "Are you out of your mind? The idea of being with you after him makes me sick," I spat. "I know this is hard, Jake, but I truly think you'll love it once you see how it strengthens us. This is going to be amazing for us," she insisted. "No, Maya," I said firmly, my voice shaking with anger. "I'm telling you to send him away. Now." Her face fell, panic flashing in her eyes. It was like she hadn't expected me to reject this madness. "You always let me have my way, Jake," she said, her voice hardening. "And this will be good for us. I know it will. I'm gonna go upstairs now. Get ready. You can let him in." "Maya, I understand exactly where you're coming from now, and what this means for us," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "Go ahead. I'll talk to him. He's not my lover, Jake. It's just an intense experience. But I will always love you. Forever," she insisted, reaching for a hug. I recoiled, the betrayal cutting deep. "Don't wait on me, Maya. It's clear you've made your decision. And whether it happens now or later, you'll probably go through with it eventually. But as far as I'm concerned, you've already crossed a line." She turned, guilt and shock painted on her face. Halfway up the stairs, she looked back. "This is going to change everything," she said. "Yes, Maya. It really is," I replied, anger and resignation coiling in my gut. Once she disappeared upstairs, I grabbed her keys, her phone, and our shared credit card from her purse. In the kitchen, I picked up a dish towel, a few zip ties, and a large carving knife. Then, I headed outside to meet Grant. He was sitting in his car, messing around on his phone. When he saw me approach, he rolled down the window and smirked. "So, little Jake, I take it Maya told you everything. Don't worry. I'll let you keep her for a bit longer until she's fully under my control." I didn't let him finish. I threw the hardest left hook I could manage, connecting squarely with his nose. The satisfying crunch told me I did some damage. "Here, you'll need this," I said, tossing him the dish towel. As he instinctively raised it to his bleeding nose, I quickly looped a zip tie around his wrist, securing it to the headrest. I yanked the car door open and landed another punch, this time lower, right where he bragged about his manhood. He doubled over in pain, barely able to move with his wrist tied to the headrest. His free hand clutched the steering wheel as he howled in agony. Without hesitation, I zip-tied his other hand to the wheel. Leaning in close, I whispered, "So much for being the big, strong alpha male. Look at you now, pathetic. You've made a terrible mistake, and you're about to pay for it." I grabbed a nearby hose, fitted with a heavy steel nozzle. With a swing, I smashed the car window, sending glass flying. Then I turned to the windshield, hitting it hard until cracks spiderwebbed across the surface. The headlights were next. I shattered them, the destruction giving me a grim sense of satisfaction. I returned to the driver's side of the car, chuckling as I leaned in. "Looks like your car needs some serious work," I remarked. Then, without warning, I pulled a knife from my pocket and pressed the blade against his throat, right by his jugular. In a low, menacing tone, I hissed, "How many times have you been with my wife? Did you try to convince her I'd be okay with this?" Fear lit up his eyes as he stammered, "Only twice. Just the past few weeks. It didn't mean anything. It was just sex. Please let me go. I swear you'll never see me again." I looked at him with nothing but disgust, seeing only a coward. "I'm not going to kill you now, but hear me out. If I catch even a hint of trouble from the police or any other consequences from our little chat today, I will come for you. Involve the cops, and sure, maybe I end up in jail for a while. But one day, maybe in a parking lot, maybe in an elevator at work, I'll find you. And when that day comes, I'll finish what I started. You decide. Either this is the last time we see each other, or you spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder." I leaned closer, plunging the knife into the car seat beside him. "Maya will need this to cut you loose. Now you can either drive her away, or she'll take you to the emergency room. I don't care which, just make sure both of you disappear from my life." Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked back toward the house. As soon as I closed the front door, I heard Maya calling from upstairs. "Grant, is that you? Did you sort things out with Jake?" Her ignorance stunned me. "Maya, Grant's still in the car. He wants to talk to you outside. I think he's reconsidering things," I said. Moments later, she appeared, wearing the lingerie I had bought her, barely hidden under a robe. "What happened, Jake? Did you tell him everything's okay?" she asked. I made it clear that his future depends on his choices, I replied calmly. You should go out and have a chat with him. Confusion clouded her face. Jake, you know I love you, right? This is all supposed to make us stronger, she said, almost pleading. Of course, Maya, I answered, keeping my tone even, masking my true emotions. The moment she stepped outside, I locked the door behind her. I headed upstairs, her shouts from the driveway ringing in my ears. What did you do, Jake? Come here. I ignored her. Instead, I went to the bedroom and pulled out a suitcase. I began throwing in her clothes, underwear, bras, socks, shirts, jeans, sweaters, anything I could grab quickly. I raided the bathroom for her makeup and personal items, stuffing them into the bag, then added a pair of her tennis shoes from the closet. I went to the guest room, opened the window, and called down to her. Maya, you might need this, I shouted, dumping the suitcase onto the driveway. I saw perfume bottles break as they hit the ground, but I didn't care. Next, I tossed her shoes, which she narrowly dodged. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. Jake, please, what are you doing? She cried. I leaned out the window, my voice cold. I thought this was what you wanted. You wanted to be with him, right? Her tears flowed harder as she pleaded. I didn't mean to hurt you, Jake. I thought this was something that would bring us closer. Please, let me in, and we can figure this out. Maya, I said firmly, you've been delusional since you walked in the door tonight, talking about turning me into a cuckold, as if I'd just go along with it. I'm not sure if you're on drugs or if I've completely misjudged the kind of person you are. Either way, I don't care anymore. Get out of my house. Take your lover to the hospital if you want. But remember what I told him. If word of today reaches me from the police or anyone else, there will be consequences. Her face crumpled, but I didn't care. I'll pack the rest of your things and let you know where to pick them up. Don't come back here. I slammed the window shut and headed downstairs. As I opened the front door, I tossed her purse at her, hitting her square in the chest before I slammed the door again. Is this enough for you, Maya? I called out through the door. After locking it behind me, I walked into the kitchen, grabbed a beer from the fridge, and let out a long sigh. The rush of adrenaline began to wear off, and the magnitude of the day's events started to hit me. I realized I needed to contact a lawyer in case the police got involved, and maybe a good divorce attorney while I was at it. I glanced out the window. Grant was yelling at Maya as she freed him from the zip ties. She put her suitcase in the trunk, helped him into the back seat, and got into the driver's seat. Sobbing, she backed out of the driveway, looking utterly broken. As I took a sip of my beer, I couldn't believe how insane things had become. How had my wife gone so far off the rails? How had I let myself get so angry at Grant that I nearly lost control? He wasn't worth it. I laughed bitterly, thinking about the ridiculous alpha nonsense Grant had fed Maya. All I ever wanted was a loving, stable marriage. Maya had taken my kindness for weakness, mistaking it for submissiveness. I never saw this betrayal coming. Over the next few days, Maya stayed away. I got calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Most likely her, since I'd taken her phone. She left messages, asking me to call her back, desperate to talk. I knew a confrontation was coming. Thankfully, no police showed up, and I began to feel relieved that I had avoided a worse outcome. Eventually, I called Maya and told her to come over in an hour to talk. I packed the rest of her things and waited on the porch. When she arrived, she got out of her car and hesitated before sitting next to me on the steps. Her face was swollen and tear-streaked. She had clearly been crying for days and sleeping very little. She looked at me with a mix of shame, guilt, and fear. I'm so sorry, Jake, she began. I don't know how I let Grant convince me that this was a good idea, that you'd be into it. Looking back, I can't believe I got caught up in it all. Maybe it was his confidence, his assertiveness. He made it sound like it would be the best thing for us. But I know now it was insane. I love you, Jake. I want only you. Please, forgive me. I'll do anything to make it right. I looked at her, my voice cutting through the tension. So, Maya, how was Grant in bed? Her face flushed as she shook her head. Stop, Jake, please. It never went that far. After our conversation, I realized how wrong this was. Grant's terrified of you. He fired me and he doesn't want anything to do with me. He even spent 2 nights in the hospital because of what you did. He told the hospital it was a robbery, and I backed him up to keep you out of trouble. Well, at least he did something right, I muttered. But what do you want, Maya? What are you here for? I want to come home, Jake. I want to be your wife again. I know I messed up, but I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. We can be stronger after this. I've realized that you're the only one I love, and I need your forgiveness. Please, Jake, can I come home? She implored. I sat in silence for a moment, choosing my words carefully. Maya, I've given this a lot of thought. We've been together for 5 years. 2 years in love, 3 married, and already you're either bored with our life or seeking something more. Maybe you think you love me, and perhaps you do, but I'm certain you don't respect me. If you did, you wouldn't have imagined me as some submissive beta male, willing to let you sleep with your boss and then come back to me. You wouldn't have done that if you truly understood what love and respect are. I paused before continuing, my tone firm. The truth is, Maya, you've already been unfaithful. Grant told me about the times you were intimate with him over the past few weeks while he filled your head with all this alpha-beta male nonsense. Your desires were more important than the vows we made, and this is only 5 years in. What's going to happen in 10, 15, or 20 years? How many times will you get bored and find a reason to break those vows? Maya's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, Jake, I swear, I'll never do anything like this again. I shook my head. You've already done it, Maya, so don't make promises you can't keep. I've thought long and hard about this. We don't have kids, our savings are modest, and the house has barely any equity. The risk of staying with you far outweighs any benefit. I'm convinced it's only a matter of time before you justify another affair. Next time, you won't even tell me. You'll go behind my back. I don't trust you anymore, and worse, I've lost respect for you. I can't be with someone I don't respect, and who doesn't respect me. Maya broke down, tears streaming down her face as I calmly laid out my decision. Maya, we're getting a divorce. You can keep your car and I'll keep mine. We'll split what's left of the savings and sell the house. We're both still young. You can go and find someone who fits into the life you want. Someone who might love and respect you for who you are. I stood up, my voice growing more resolute. I've already hired a divorce lawyer. We can do this amicably, or you can hire your own. Either way, we're done. Let's pack your car with your things, and you can be with as many alpha males as you like. I'll start moving out next week so we can put the house on the market. No, Jake. Please forgive me. I love you. I need you. I truly respect you. It was just a mistake, one I was dragged into. You have to forgive me, she begged, her voice cracking with desperation. I shook my head once more, my tone cold and final. Maya, I've said everything there is to say. It's time for both of us to move on. If our paths ever cross, we'll just nod and move on. I hope you find what you're looking for. Without another word, I helped pack her things into the car. When we finished, I looked at her one last time. Goodbye, Maya. Then, I turned and walked back into the house, closing the door behind me, symbolizing the end of our marriage. Final update. After the divorce, I decided to take some time for myself, something I hadn't done in years. I'd always dreamed of going on a cross-country road trip, so I packed my bags and hit the road, eager to reclaim the freedom I felt I'd lost during my marriage. A few weeks into the trip, while driving through a remote area of the Southwest, my car started making strange noises and sputtering. I pulled off at the first exit I saw that had a gas station with a small auto shop. The mechanic took a look and told me the bad news. The engine was shot and would need a full rebuild. Feeling stuck and frustrated, I was about to sink into self-pity when I wandered into a nearby diner and met Zoe, the owner. She was unlike anyone I'd ever known. Strong, adventurous, and completely independent. Zoe convinced me to stick around while the repairs were done, and over the next few days, she introduced me to the beauty of the area. We went hiking, rock climbing, and explored the wilderness. Her energy and love for life slowly started to pull me out of my post-divorce haze. One night, we were camping under the stars, sitting by a fire, when things began to heat up between us. We kissed, and the passion was undeniable. But just as things were escalating, I pulled away, confessing that I wasn't ready for anything serious after what I'd been through. Zoe smiled warmly and reassured me. "Don't overthink it," she said. "Let's just enjoy the moment." That night, we made love under the stars. It was an incredible, freeing experience, but afterward, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd made a mistake. I told Zoe how I felt, but she just laughed, telling me to loosen up and live in the present. Her carefree attitude was so different from everything I'd known. Over the next few weeks, we continued seeing each other while my car was being fixed. Our time together wasn't about the future or any commitment. It was about living fully in the now. By the time my car was ready, I didn't want to leave. But Zoe, always full of wisdom, encouraged me to continue my journey. "There's more out there for you," she said. "Life's full of surprises. Embrace them." As I drove away, I felt like a different man. The anger and hurt from my marriage no longer weighed me down. Zoe had taught me to let go of my inhibitions, to live for the adventure and the unexpected twists that life throws at you. I left that small desert town feeling grateful for the lessons I'd learned and the freedom I'd rediscovered. Thanks for watching this emotional story of love, lust, and lies. Hope it touched your heart. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a fresh story every day. Love to hear your thoughts in the comments, so feel free to share your experiences and tell your story.